Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Connected Places, Connected Airport Living Lab Digital Twin Competition Support webinar today. I see there are quite a number of you and the number keeps increasing. So whilst we wait for the last few attendees to join us, I'll briefly introduce what's in store today. So today is the 20th of February, and we're here to introduce you a brand new program that Connected Places Catapult is launching together with our colleagues at Gatwick Airport. You'll hear from a range of speakers, but just before we go into the agenda, I just wanted to remind everyone that the event is being recorded and we will be sharing the recording and the slides shortly after the event. You will be notified with an email when that's available. And I would also welcome everyone to use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to send us any question or any comment that you would like us to address later on in the session. So without further ado, I will briefly take you through the webinar agenda today. As I said, you will hear from a number of colleagues, starting from our Ecosystem Director for Air Mobility and Airport, Andrew Chadwick, and then a series of other Connected Places Catapult colleagues, Anna Kerr from the Innovation Funding team, George Waddell from the User Research team, and Jonathan Wilson, Senior Innovation Technologist at CPC. We're also joined today by Robert Love and John Matthew from Glasgow Airport, who will briefly talk about the role that the Glasgow Airport Living Lab plays within this program. I completely forgot to introduce myself. Hello, everyone. I'm Julia Lorenzini, and I'm the team lead for the Innovation Funding team here at Connected Places. On that note, I will now ask my colleague Kat to play an introductory video, and after that, I will hand over to you, Andrew, for the introduction. Thank you.
For millennia, cities have been places where bright ideas spark. From the earliest riverside trading posts that turned into today's sprawling megacities in the digital global economy. Cities can create positive experiences for people, always connected by technology. And when connected places work well, it's good for people and the planet. But making a connected place succeed is hard. There's loads of stakeholders, businesses, regulators, and community groups who want to be involved across every mode of transport, every type of building, the infrastructure that underpins them, and the data and digital platforms that connect them. All of this is needed to help people, communities, neighbourhoods, and local businesses to prosper. Now, more than ever, we need our connected places to succeed. We are in a climate emergency. Rapid urbanisation means 3/4 of us will be living in a city by 2050. And new technologies are revolutionising the way that we live, the way we work, and the way we travel, creating fantastic opportunities for innovation, jobs, and growth. At Connected Places Catapult, we connect people, places, and businesses for a future of sustainable growth and prosperity. We are the UK's innovation accelerator for cities, transport, and place leadership. We are trusted across government, industry, and academia, connecting new technologies, business models, and investment opportunities. So join with us and be better connected for a future of sustainable growth and prosperity.
So welcome to the webinar this afternoon on digital twins for the Connected Airport Living Lab. As Julia mentioned, my name is Andrew Chadwick, and I'm delighted to welcome you this afternoon. Just got a few slides to give a little bit of background of who we are in Connected Places Catapult, and also a little bit about the Connected Airport Living Lab. So if I may have the next slide, please. So the Connected Places Catapult is one of 9 leading technology and innovation centres or catapults, which span across 40 different locations in the UK. We're all independent, not-for-profit private organisations, and we transform the UK's capability for innovation in sectors of strength. We're one, as I mentioned, of 9, and we lead in fields such as mobility, built environment, critical infrastructure, health and well-being, public places, and also in decision-making. May I have the next slide, please? So the Connected Places Catapult, we are the UK's innovation accelerator for cities, transport and place. So we are an expert convener, we are neutral, independent, and also we are trusted in our delivery. We operate in particular in the intersection, so between public and private sectors, and also between local and central government and academia. So we can bring together and convene all these groups so we can address the challenges of today and tomorrow. And our focus is on connecting businesses in order to generate new business opportunities and also to accelerate the creation of innovative products and services. So the next slide, please. So we're here today to talk about the digital twin for the Connected Airport Living Lab. Now, the Connected Airport Living Lab is a partnership between Glasgow Airport and Connected Places Catapult, and we're creating an innovation hub in Glasgow Airport. So it's a collaborative space which is designed as a research and development asset to attract investment into UK developed solutions. So the aim of the hub here is to trial, demonstrate, and also showcase technologies which are innovative that will help sustain the airports of the future. So we're going to play host to a number of different types of technologies, systems, and processes that will boost productivity and also accelerate decarbonisation of ground and air operations. So we're looking at things such as the electrification of flight, the use of hydrogen, automation, data analytics, and also multimodal connected surface level access, plus a number of other challenges, some of which you'll hear about today for the digital twin. And our impact is to produce a highly innovative net zero place that plays an important part in developing the city region's skill base and also full economic potential. So we have a number of collaborative projects which are going to link over the next 5 years, all of which will be growing in complexity that will address things such as climate action, levelling up, infrastructure development, and also passenger experience. So I'll hand back to the team who are managing the digital twin, who will give you a briefing now on the challenge that we have and some of the things that we're looking for. Thank you very much.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Andrew. Hello, everyone. My name is Annika, and I'm an Innovation Funding Manager here at Connected Places Catapult, and I'm going to set the scene a little bit for this competition for everyone. If I could have the next slide, please, that'd be fantastic. So ultimately, this competition is designed to stimulate innovation and the practical integration of digital twin technologies at Glasgow Airport, with a focus being here on airport efficiency, sustainability, and improved passenger experience. So it's going to be a 2-phase approach that we take. Within phase 1, we will invite up to 5 businesses to showcase their digital twin concepts at Glasgow Airport, each accessing up to £5,000. In phase 2, one business from that phase 1 will be selected to receive up to £70,000 to further develop and implement their digital twin solution in a live demonstrator environment at Glasgow Airport. All throughout this programme, there will be comprehensive support. Participants will receive support and technical advice from industry experts here at Connected Places Catapult and at Glasgow Airport. And this competition also offers that networking opportunity with industry leaders and stakeholders, which, as we all know, provides a strong platform for collaboration and potential future growth. If I could have the next slide, please, Kat. So obviously, I mean, I'm speaking to the right audience here, but in the interest of clarity, we're just going to run through what we at Connected Places Catapult define as being a digital twin. So I'm just going to read what's on screen in the interest of accessibility. A digital twin is a computer model that serves as a digital representation of a physical asset, which may or may not yet exist, such as a 3D model of an existing airport or a model of an unbuilt tunnel. It maintains a dynamic data connection with its physical counterpart, updated at the right time based on the use case through means such as sensors for predictive maintenance, without necessarily requiring real-time updates. And you can see in a visualization of that underneath. If I could have the next slide, please. And linking to that, we have the digital twin roadmap. So this definition that I've just given on digital twins links to the digital twin roadmap 2035 that we developed here at Connected Places Catapult, and which was commissioned by TRIB, the Transport Research Innovation Board, led by DFT, and involved key industry players. As part of this milestone, we're very keen to align our work with the digital twin roadmap that you can see. The roadmap was launched by Connected Places Catapult last summer. The TRIB commissioned vision and roadmap produced by Connected Places Catapult consists of work streams, components, outputs, outcomes, and activities which collectively guide us towards a future in which we achieve the shared vision outlined on the screen in 2035. I would definitely encourage everyone on the call to have a little look at this roadmap. There is a link on your screens, and you will also receive a copy of slides and the various links in the days following this webinar. If I could have the next slide, please, Kat. So a bit of further background information, we find this process here of setting the vision, process and outcome model to be quite a useful scene setting tool for the competitions that we run. So the vision, our goal is pretty simple. It is to harness the power of digital twin technologies to innovate within aviation. At Glasgow Airport, we're looking to boost operational efficiency and promote a sustainable and resilient approach to airport management. Ultimately, it's about smarter and more efficient airports that are future ready, so to speak, which we're looking forward to everyone being part of. The process, we're going to be calling on businesses with mature digital innovations, so we'll be defining those at beyond technological readiness level 5 to join us for this competition. You can find more information about what constitutes technological readiness 5 in our application guidance document, which is on the competition opportunity page. All of the links to what I'm mentioning here will follow at the end of the presentation. And the competition unfolds in 2 stages. As I said, there'll be a showcase phase in which you'd come to Glasgow, showcase your innovation, and then there will be a demonstration phase where one of those 5 will be selected in order to demonstrate it live, which is super exciting as a concept. And the outcome, so our ideal outcome is to see advanced digital solutions in action at Glasgow Airport. We aim to enhance how we manage airport assets and passenger flow, setting a new benchmark for digital transformation. And we're loving the fact that Glasgow and Connected Places Catapult are going to be at the helm of that. And we're aiming to set a really strong precedent for the future of aviation industry within the context of digital twin integration. So that's a little bit more background. If I could have the next slide, please, Kat. And which now I will be passing over to my colleague, George, who is going to be chatting you guys through the challenge areas. Over to you, George.
Thank you, Anna. So I'm George from Connected Places Catapult. I'm going to be introducing the challenge themes that we're looking to address within this program. And to make sure that we're bringing in the right solutions, we take a challenge-led approach. We've put forward 3 different challenge statements. And this isn't to say that because your solution doesn't currently address any of these challenges that you shouldn't apply. Instead, we want to see solutions that can show the potential for addressing these challenges or potentially addressing these challenges in other industries or sectors. We've aimed to frame these challenges so they aren't too prescriptive and therefore are open to a variety of different approaches to addressing them. And to find the right challenges, we've considered 3 key criteria. So one, that it should be a challenge that could be addressed by a digital twin solution, and that digital twin solutions were the most appropriate means of addressing it. 2, that these challenges are aligned with Glasgow Airport's future strategy. So there's lots of exciting projects happening within Glasgow Airport. So we want to make sure that these challenges were complementing and supporting existing work. And 3, that these challenges are challenges that could be addressed by innovators like yourself. Next slide, please. So with that in mind, I'm going to now move on to the first challenge here. So asset replacement. So how can we optimize asset lifecycle for future ready airports? So surface usage patterns at airports can be complex and dynamic, involve multiple types of aircraft, varying traffic volumes, and different operational activities. So we want to understand how we can maybe analyze and interpret these patterns to determine pavement asset replacement priorities. and also understand how can we incorporate data on airfield surface usage to develop a data-driven methodology for determining optimal pavement asset replacement priorities at airports. All that in keeping in mind the balance in safety, operational efficiency, and cost effectiveness. Next slide, please.
By the link that I just added.
The second challenge we have here is around passenger movement. So how do we navigate the surge in passengers with limited space? So passenger capacity is set to increase at Glasgow Airport. So many airports are facing constraints due to the limited terminal space, runways, taxiways, and gates. So expanding infrastructure to accommodate the increase in passenger numbers may be costly and subject to sort of space limitations, especially in urban areas. So within this challenge, we want to understand how might we better observe, forecast, and influence passenger footfall to better inform that decision-making of end-to-end journeys within airports. And then next slide, please. And the third challenge we have here is around energy management. So how can we innovate energy management for future airports? So energy management in airports presents several challenges due to the complex and multifaceted nature of airports operations. So this complexity will be added to by the introduction of new modes of transport, such as the eVTOL aircraft. And eVTOL aircraft presents unique challenges for energy management due to their novel propulsion systems and operational characteristics. So within this challenge, we want to understand how can we understand that impact on the energy supply and operational capacity of an eVTOL operation into the airport operation by observing the current energy management models. And then also, how can we observe the introduction and rolling out of EV charging on the land side and or air side to understand impact on energy supply and demand? So that's everything from myself. I'm now going to pass it on to the Glasgow team. So next slide, please.
Hi folks, so my name is John Matthews and I look after the infrastructure and future planning for the AGS airports, and the A within that stands for Aberdeen, the G for Glasgow, and the S for Southampton. So we've got 3 airports in the division, but the Living Lab is specifically looking at Glasgow Airport, although we do then clearly have other airports that we can lift and shift success to and learnings from too. In terms of specifically Glasgow Airport, the airport is around a 9 million passenger based and has a significant value across both Scotland and the UK. So in 2023, it generated 1.4 billion of GVA for the UK. It supports over 30,000 jobs, and again last year, imports and exports out of Glasgow Airport amounted to 1.8 billion. So significantly an important national infrastructure. It's important to say it is a privately run entity as well. So we do have shareholders to return to. So a lot of the projects that we do look at have that both lens of national infrastructure, but also as a private enterprise. Fundamentally, what the 3 areas are covered in this call are looking to do is address challenges that we see within the infrastructure. So we are an infrastructure business within aviation, and those being the assets, the passengers, and the energy. On an annual basis, we spend somewhere around £30 million of capital to get our assets taken over. So you can see why, even without having any significant growth plans, we would want to understand how those assets operate and how we can increase them and improve efficiency and effectiveness to reduce the capital expenditure in areas that don't specifically add value and redirect that capital expenditure into future growth areas. From a passenger experience and passenger growth, what we're really keen to understand is how does the passenger experience also improve, as well as being able to accommodate them so we're not necessarily looking for a project that would give a result. So if you can cram X number of passengers into a certain area from a capacity perspective, but really a holistic consideration of multiple aspects of the passenger journey. And on the energy piece, energy is not the reason we do business, but without it, we can't do business. It is fundamental to running the infrastructure we do. And what we're really keen on understanding as well is how do we further increase the electrification across multiple new markets that we want to get into, and we think Aviation UK will get into, whilst not jeopardizing the current core airport operations. In terms of some of the experience we've had within digital twins previously, we've had two significant projects. The airport we used for those previous trials were Aberdeen, but again, there's no specific reason. You can read across the 3 airports within that. Examples, and in those projects, we considered the technology involved of digitalizing the experience from passengers using the check-in facilities. So if most of you as well sure have had experience using an airport where you go to a check-in and you drop your bag off at a belt and then you get reunited with that bag at your returning airport. But behind the scenes, that bag does a number of interesting things, including a security check, and then gets boarded onto an aircraft after a number of handling mechanisms. So we built a digital twin to prove the concept that it could be beneficial, and the root cause or the root challenge in that area was passenger experience from the baggage point of view, but also mechanical engineering from machines within that scope. And then after that proof of concept, we then went on to a wider project where we looked at the aircraft turnaround on stand. Stand is what you'd expect. It's where the aircraft stands whilst people board it and on board. And it's really important within the airport operation to utilize and make that as effective as possible, because it's a timely cost to be on stand from an airline perspective. And so we built a digital twin which used the infrastructure around the stand, but also importantly had the data inputs from various areas across that operation, including but not limited to the airport, air navigation control, ground handlers, and multiple other data and service users. In terms of learnings from that, and something that I'd really like you to listen to, is that where we see value in this in the next call is on the ability to improve decisions from data and improved data, rather than specifically the digitalization of the operations in some kind of visual form. That's interesting and of course nice to see, but it really is the focus for us in what it means on understanding the data flows and the information on the infrastructure, as opposed to the specific focus being on what a digital twin itself will look like on screen. And at that point, hopefully that's given you a bit of overview of the Glasgow Airport as well as what we're looking for within this call. I'll hand back to the CPC team.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, John. I do believe I'm up next on the agenda. Thank goodness, that would have been a bit awkward if I wasn't. Just as a point of clarification, I've spotted an error that we misspoke earlier. It will not be £5,000 to 5 innovators in that first showcase phase. It will be £3,000 to 5 innovators. That's just to cover travel costs, showcase stand, use case development, and all of that stuff. So do accept our apologies for that. We will be sharing slides after this, and we will ensure that that is rectified. Okay, without further ado, a little competition timeline overview. If I could please have the next slide, that would be lovely. So we launched this opportunity on the 8th of February 2024, and we intend to close submissions at 5 o'clock promptly on the 7th of March. We'll be conducting our interviews mid-March, and we'll select the first 5 businesses for that phase 1 in early April. So that will be our cohort selection phase. After that, phase 1 of the competition will officially begin. We'll have our 5 innovators. Between April and June, you'll be provided with guidance and support by Connected Places Catapult and Glasgow Airport at the showcase event on the 6th of June, which I've highlighted there on the screen as being a date to mark in the diaries. Just wanting to note that showcase attendant is a mandatory element of this competition, so you will have to attend if your organisation is selected for phase 1. Following this showcase, we will assess the 5 participating businesses and make our final selection, which we expect to announce in mid-June. The way that we will assess this is on the next slide. So if I could have the next slide, please. So this is just a top-level overview of how we will be scoring and evaluating phase 1. So solution will be weighed in at 40%, the program fit will be weighed in at 20%, the impact will be 20%, team will be 5%, and traction and financials will be 15%. So this will be how we judge and evaluate the actual showcase, and it will also be how we judge and evaluate a use case proposal report that will be submitted at the end of phase 1. Next slide, please. And I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Jonathan Wilson.
Thanks, Anna. Hi, everyone. As Anna mentioned, I'm Jonathan, Senior Technologist at the Catapult, and also tech lead for this project. So once we've selected the 5 SMEs, we'll be working with them to develop a use case. And that really showcases what your digital twin technology can do for the airport. And in terms of what we're looking for within that use case is sort of what you can see here, and we'll take a dual focus. In the first instance, we'll take a challenge focus, where we're looking really to understand how well your solution can meet the needs of the airport. And then secondly, also a deployment focus, working to understand how sort of well and capacitated you are in order to actually deploy the solution over the course of 6 months within a demonstrator. So just talking through what we're going to be looking for in the challenge focus, and we will be sending you a template of this if you're selected as one of the 5 SMEs, and we will also be supporting you to develop this. But firstly, challenge and solution. Here what we're looking for is an explanation of how your solution will address the challenges of Glasgow that George identified earlier. And we're also looking for any innovative features and differentiators that set your solution apart from others in the market. Then we're looking to understand further your technical approach, so really get a better understanding of the information that you have or require on data sources, your integration capabilities, and modeling techniques, and also how the solution will integrate with the existing systems of the airport. And again, we will be working with you to try and to sort of support developing this, and we will also be supplying you with some technical documentation to develop this, such as a data catalog, and also a better understanding of systems at the airport. Then over to the potential impact. This is a key thing for us at Catapult. Here we're looking to understand the expected impact on the airport operations, efficiency, and sustainability, but also an understanding of the impact within the broader industry, aviation and airport industry, and how this solution can be scaled across. Then moving on to the deployment focus. Here we'd like to see a deployment plan, so a step-by-step project plan that includes key milestones and timelines, so we know what it is you want to deliver, when you want to deliver it, and how. Then we'd like to see an associated risk assessment that has mitigations attached to those and also dependencies of each risk. Then we'd like to see resource requirements, so breakdown of the estimated costs that you'll need to deploy this solution, reminding that we do have up to £70,000 for this. And then also an understanding of the resources required by both the SMEs and the airport and any other stakeholders that might be involved. Then team and expertise, sort of helping us to understand who within the team will be working on this and how that can build confidence that you have all the right capabilities to develop a solution. And then lastly, but definitely not least, data privacy and security. As we know, the airport very sensitive environment due to operations and also the amount of people moving through. So you really want to know that you have data privacy and security in hand when deploying your solution. Next slide, please. Just a few sort of comments on what to expect at the showcase. This will be held on the 6th of June, and it will be within the Glasgow Airport campus. As mentioned, there will be 5 SMEs, and you'll be presenting your use cases to a combination of airport, aviation, and digital twin technology experts. There will also be some investors in the room, so we're hoping to really get a lot of interest in this and get it looking as much like the picture on the right as possible. Connected Places Catapult will be arranging your travel for that, so you don't need to worry about building that cost into your proposal. As mentioned, 1 SME will be selected to demonstrate their solution live at Glasgow Airport, and we'll have up to 6 months to do this. So hopefully we can get a good demonstration that's as thorough as possible. What that demonstrator allows for is a live environment testing. It also allows for access to airport staff and data, and the opportunity to collaborate with the Catapult to evaluate impact. The reason being, and you can see in the last point, because in parallel to doing this demonstrator work, what we're also going to be doing is collaborating with industry specialists to create a deployment roadmap for digital twin technology within the sector. So that relates back to what Anna was mentioning earlier about the TRIB roadmap. And this is going to be a fundamental part in helping us to learn what it takes to sort of develop and implement these solutions with suppliers, with key stakeholders in the industry, and ourselves. Next slide, please.
Thank you very much, everyone. So I would kindly ask all my colleagues to maybe put their camera back on. We can probably, thank you, Kat, leave the slide and then maybe put the QR code up at the end in case you want to quickly take a screenshot of that. Perfect. Brilliant. So I've got a couple of questions. Thank you, everyone, for sending them through. So I am going to start from a couple of questions around the challenges. So George, we had a question for you, which is, let me read it out. So it's from Ingrid. Can I confirm, does the proposed solution need to address all three challenges in full?
No, so you don't need to address all three challenges. You can just select one of those challenges. But if you do wish to address multiple challenges within there, you can if you so wish. I would just say though that in the application form, it will only allow you to select one of those challenges, and then within that, I think there's an optional technical document that you can submit alongside that, where you can maybe specify that you're also looking to address an additional challenge as well.
Thank you, George. Brilliant. And I've got one for you, Jonathan. This is about phase 2. The question is phase 2 expected to include a full production service, a part of the development of the solution? Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I might need a little bit more elaboration on the question, but what we're aiming to do in phase 2 is run a 6-month demonstrator. So we would be looking to deploy that solution. That would be developing any sort of live virtual environments that you would need to, and then also connecting up with data that you'll be able to get from either the airport or through sensors or whatever other mechanisms you wish to use to sort of come up with your insights through the technology.
Brilliant, perfect. Thank you, Jonathan. There are a couple of questions around who can apply. So just I'll take that one as a joint piece, since there's been a couple of questions throughout. So everyone can apply, SMEs of any size. So someone was asking micro, small, medium. It's open to everyone. We would ask that academic institutions apply as part of a consortium rather than being the lead applicants for the proposals. That's the only difference. There's a question around phase 2 funding being 100% of cost. And yes, the answer is that both phase 1 and phase 2 will cover 100% of the cost. I'm going to move on to Robert and John. There's a question from, well, for you rather. Alex Reed is asking, are there particular areas of the airport where the movement of passengers and overall experience where digital twin tech you think can make the biggest impact? Maybe if we start from you, Robert, and then move on to John, or the other way around.
Yeah, I'll start. Hi. So one of the big areas for us is obviously people getting to the airport. And around the infrastructure on the road. So that's one of the aspects. The other for passengers is probably airside, which is where we are sometimes down the terminals, movement of people, and that kind of angle on it as well is quite interesting for movement of passengers around the infrastructure. I don't know if you've got anything else, John, to add.
Yeah, probably looking at it specifically from a capacity pinch point, both today and for the future growth that we expect. So check-in, security, and IDL, as we call it, so the International Departure Lounge. I would say probably think about those free areas. So, and you can see that in terms of site visits and stuff, or just experience going through an airport probably is the free areas that people have queued at from their own experience.
Brilliant. Thank you, John and Robert. And staying on the digital twin topic, of course, back to you, Jonathan. We've got a question around the definition of digital twin. We had a slide on that earlier, but maybe if we can expand, the question is this virtual or a different physical environment?
Yeah, thanks, Julia. So digital twins means a lot of different things to many people, very much a new term. What we're using here is the definition established by the Digital Twin Hub, and that states that it is a virtual representation of a physical asset that has a dynamic data connection between the two. So that data doesn't necessarily need to be in real time, but needs to be is and when is needed. So yeah, it definitely has to be virtual offering that you're developing, whether that is a 3D visualization or whether that's purely a data model. We're less specific on that, but it is definitely a digital virtual offering that we're looking for and not something that's physical.
And I'm going to stay with you, Jonathan, for a quick question, and then I'm going to hand over to Robert and John as well for their thoughts. The question is, very good. Thank you, Keith, for sending that through. What happens after phase 2?
Yeah, so we're going to be conducting an impact assessment on this. That's going to sort of be built into how we develop that roadmap, which will be lining up the TRIB roadmap, which we're hoping will sort of advocate for further funding moving on. But in terms of sort of contracting post the program, I think that's not really, we're just focusing on the 6-month demonstrator, and whatever happens afterwards will have to be negotiated between your business and whichever partners you're wishing to work with.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. John and Robert, do you want to add anything to that?
I suppose just to clarify, which is we're not looking at this from innovation's sake, that we really are passionate that we want to bring this technology in and deploy it in real long term to benefit our business. So in some ways I can't say it's definitely going to happen because I don't know what the results of phase 2 is going to be, but this is we're working on the principle that we will then look to bring this into the business from a successful application in a longer term rollout and also then to replicate across our other airports. So I suppose it's back to the cohort here, which to say, as long as it's a good phase 2, then there should be long-term future in it.
That. A few other technical questions, so I'm going to take those first and then come back to you, Anna, for a few competition related ones. So Hakan asks, would you be open to share what systems you are using for GIS, asset management, document management, BIM, repository, building management systems, and others? I guess that's a Glasgow colleague type of question, or perhaps Andrew as well.
Do you want me to come in the first instance? So we absolutely, I think it's within the call details, is we're absolutely willing to share details where we can on data. It's just some data that we won't share, obviously, for national infrastructure security reasons, but those that we can, we will share.
Thank you. Anyone else want to join? Yeah, Jonathan. Yep.
I could just add to that quickly. One of the questions within your application speaks specifically to what data you require and sort of what systems you aim to use. It's important there to list exactly what it is that you need, because we take that information and that data and we use that to work with Robert and the team at the airport to develop a data catalog, which will be shared with the SMEs that get selected, but that will give a clear understanding of exactly what data is available and sort of whether you can use that or not for your solution.
Thank you, Jonathan. That answers the question from Shrikant on what kind of data sources will be made available. So as Jonathan, just to re-emphasize, as Jonathan said, if you highlight in your application form what data you might think you may need, we will do our best to collaborate with the Glasgow Airport colleagues and make as much data available as possible, or at least samples available. Okay. I'm coming back to you, Anna, for a competition. Well, two actually we've got, just to clarify. First one is there a requirement to match fund or contribute to the project? And the second one is around cost of travel.
No problem. So I'll take that requirement on match funding question first. So match funding is not a requirement for this competition. It's not something you need to do. We do have a little table within our finance project, which is in the finance question in the application form, where you can outline any of your match funding, but no, it is not a requirement for this competition. And was the other question around the funding of the travel? Would you be able to read that one out for me by any chance, Julia?
Absolutely. I've just filed it away. I shouldn't have. There we go. Does the 3K phase 1 cost need to cover all travel, accommodation and exhibition costs for the showcase event itself?
So Connect Places Catapult CPC, we will be organising your travel for you, and we have a budget allocated for that. So the actual travel to and from Glasgow and the overnight stay in Glasgow will not need to come out of your £3,000. That will be covered separately.
Thank you, Anna. We've got a question around, can companies registered in the USA or India apply for the competition? Anna, do you want to take that one?
Yes, so the answer to that question is if you must have an active UK presence to apply for this competition, which would mean you'd need a UK registered business, a company's house number specifically, because that's how we conduct our commercial due diligence. It's absolutely fine for your organisation to have operations abroad as well, but you must have a set UK presence.
Perfect. I'm going to stay with you, Anna. There is
No problem.
another question around project funding. Is it under MFA? And just FYI, MFA stands for Minimal Financial Assistance.
Yes, so phase 1 will be under minimum financial assistance, which, as a point of clarification for everybody on the call, it refers to whether your organisation has received up to £315,000 in the last 2 to 3 financial years. So if this 3K would make you exceed that, you would not be eligible to apply. So yes, it is under MFA, but we will be issuing a lot of guidance around this as well. It is on the application form, just to make sure that all of the definitions I've given are clear as day, and in the application guidance document.
So for phase 1,
just for phase 1,
definitely under MFA, the company that will be awarded the phase 2 funding, it will be done through a different funding arrangement, which is not under MFA. But for phase 1, it is under MFA. I've got a question for the colleagues from Glasgow. What existing people counting sensors do you have, and when and where, sorry, are they located?
In Glasgow, we don't necessarily have people counting sensors anywhere when you come in to check-in or in the actual beyond security. So there's a few queue measuring things you've probably seen when you're traveling through. We wonder where the queuing time that you see displayed comes from, and it's from a few sensors that we use to monitor queue length. But beyond that, in the rest of the terminal, we don't really have anything currently.
Thank you, Robert. Anyone else want to add anything? Okay, in which case I'll take another one from an anonymous attendee, but I think it's relevant. So it says not on data, but on the challenge detail itself. So maybe George, I might ask you to comment on this one as to which assets are the next priority, I guess the highest priority. Explanation of how solution will address Glasgow challenges beyond the 3 challenge areas. Is there any in-depth detail available to better answer this? Can we make anything else available?
Yeah, so I guess the first question there, in terms of what assets are next priority. So in relation to that first challenge, pavement was the sort of key priority for this. And I might also jump in to see if the Glasgow colleagues have any other sort of areas of priority as well.
Yeah, right, George. Just to confirm for everyone, just make sure everyone's in the same space. When we were talking about pavement, we talk about the surface structure in the airside environment. So that covers the runway, taxiways, stands, the similar. If you're not familiar with anything from an airside experience, it's not too dissimilar from the structure that you would see on motorways and roads, although built to accommodate very larger vehicles in terms of the Airbus 380 at Glasgow. But it's an incredibly expensive asset to maintain, so that's why those are high focus areas, and stands as well. So one of the other pinch points I forgot to say is actually the stands as around the terminal are kind of key infrastructure, and can quite often become the limiting factor whenever we're looking at new airlines coming in with additional aircraft. So we do something called slat planning, which tries to allocate individual stands out over the 24-day operation and over the 365-day of the year operation. So I would say those are priority number one, and then priority number two would be the assets within the lounge. So think of the concessionaire areas, so shops, restaurants, and spaces for people to sit and rest, as well as gate areas. So I think if you focus your efforts into that, you won't go too far wrong.
Brilliant, perfect. Jonathan, I'm coming to you for the next one from Akref. Oh, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name correctly. So for the phase one of the program, does the demonstration need a prototype, or is a demo enough?
Yeah, I think a demo is fine, as long as you can sort of convey confidence that it's something that you can deploy successfully within phase two.
Thanks, Jonathan. Another data-related questions for Robert and/or John from Jack Greenstead. Do you have sensors monitoring overall passenger comfort in the terminals, for example, temperature, toilet occupancy, CO2, and others?
Yeah, to differ in degrees across the multiple aspects of that question. So we have sensors, and we have a built-in management system that has a number of different sensors on it, depending on what specific infrastructure at any point in time within the passenger journey through the terminal. So I'd say, going back to a previous answer, was if you could be specific in your questions, and then we'll look at the detailed responses to those, because it does vary quite significantly as you go through different aspects of the terminal.
I'm going to stay with you, John, for the next one, sent by Alex Reed. Thank you, Alex. Are IGS, or if not, do they see a requirement for the digital twin solution to include data from local transport operators and car hire firms to better predict volume of passengers arriving at the airport on an hour-by-hour basis?
The answer is yes, that is something we're looking at, but I think for the specific 3 areas of call for this phase, I wouldn't be worried too much about that aspect. It's more around looking at the forecast that we already have from knowing which airlines are departing during a day, and based on historical passenger loads, which will provide as data sources. We for sure can build it in future phases and bring in multiple aspects in, and indeed we've got other projects looking at some of those data sources and how we can improve the feeds off them. But I think for this call specifically, probably doesn't need to extend into those areas.
Thank you, John. A couple of other questions. I'm coming to you, George, for the next one. If the proposed solution will address more areas than the 3 prioritized ones, will it be an advantage for getting the grant?
I think we've sort of highlighted there the challenge areas that we're focusing on, and that will be sort of included within the criteria. I guess if if it goes beyond those challenge statements, I guess if it sort of complements the addressing of the challenges that we have identified, then it will be a benefit. But yeah, we'll be using the sort of the criteria that we've outlined.
Thanks, George. I'm answering another one around the duration for which the winning solution will need to run. For phase 2, roughly speaking, we're thinking about 6 months, but further details will be made available in due course to the winning organization. there are a couple of questions of clarification, so I'm just going to take them as a whole. The answer is yes, you need to be UK based to apply for the competition. So that will answer a few. So you need to be a UK registered business. There's another question from Ingrid. Are you expecting the new solution you are looking for to integrate with the DTW solutions for stand management and luggage handling? Who would like to answer this?
I can pick that up. And I think it actually it is another response as well to the answer George previously gave as well, which is I would see this as additionality. So if your scope supplied considers this, then it would be advantageous, but it's not necessarily part of the core scope. But in terms of the ability to further develop in next phases of it, either through bringing more data feeds into it, or also for this to then feed into other areas, that is highly welcomed, but it's not necessarily needed for this scope to be successful.
Thank you, John. Jonathan, one for you. Can you please clarify your expectations for a digital twin? Are you expecting to see a visual replica of the airport at the outset, or alternatively, is a dashboard sufficient, which could in future be scaled to a visual replica?
I think we're agnostic on visuals, but again, we're looking for a virtual replica of a physical asset. I think the question was around, is a dashboard sufficient? As an output, yes, but we'd be interested to understand the sort of technology behind that.
Perfect, thank you. And Anna, one for you. I believe we may have answered it earlier, but let's just cover it again. Can the proposal include multiple SMEs in a single proposal?
Yes, you can apply as a consortium, but there will need to be a lead applicant identified. So we will only be providing, say, for example, you had a consortium of 3 SMEs, you would only receive for your one application that you submitted that £3,000. It wouldn't be £3,000 each, if that makes sense.
Perfect. And can you give us another reminder of the deadline to apply, please?
Yes, the deadline it'll be 5 o'clock promptly on the 7th of March that the applications will close.
Perfect, thank you. And then a question for perhaps Jonathan and or George. Could you clarify how, at what point in the timeline we would engage with Glasgow Airport to understand their specific requirements and operation? Can we have access to Glasgow Airport colleagues during phase 1?
Yes, the answer is yes. We will be supporting you to develop your use case. Part of that will be getting access to Glasgow Airport and stakeholders that you need access to. There'll be an opportunity to send a draft for review. Again, that would sort of have airport review. So yes, you will get access to that in phase 1.
Thank you, Jonathan. I've got a couple of other questions here. We've got time, so I'd say we go through them. Is the focus for passenger management inbound, outbound, UK, or both?
Ideally, all. So we wouldn't be looking to separate the international from domestic unless it was something specifically to do with how either one of those areas gets processed differently. So as an example, someone who picked up on arrival international because they have to go through immigration checks, then that would be really interesting and a reason for it to differentiate it from a general return and journey from somewhere else in the UK without the need to go through immigration. So unless specifically part of your proposal, that there's no expectation to be separate.
Thank you, John. We've got another question from Neil. Does the airport currently have a CAFM system? And if so, who are you using? And do you expect to continue to use this system during phase 2?
Someone's going to have to help me with what that means, that acronym.
Neil, could you, if you're still online, could you perhaps spell out what you meant by CAFM, please? Whilst we wait, I'll move on to the next one, which is we have considered ID core and shell areas only, or are areas inside the shops considered as well? Please clarify. I guess that means as part of the digital twin representation.
Yeah, I would say for the purposes of the capacity element, you could consider it, and we can supply that in terms of the capacity within particularly the restaurants and cafes are really important because they do provide a huge degree of volume within terminal seating that we factor in. So we'll supply that as part of the data puts, but you probably don't need to get into any more detail within the specific setup within a concessionaire.
Perfect. Well, I see someone is attempting, right, I've got a message from Neil. I meant a facility management system for the airport to manage the facilities and operation. So if I go back to the question was, does airport currently have one of these systems? And if so, who are you using? And do you expect to continue to use this system during phase 2? So a facilities management system.
I would hesitate a bit that we don't, but we'll take that as an action to think about offline. We do have a community app which brings in some aspects of it, but I don't think that's where that question's going. I think that question's more kind of, is there something visually that we used from an operation perspective today to manage the facility? And the answer to that's no.
Yeah, and sorry, when you're putting that in the application, if you could actually really go into a bit more detail as much as possible, then we can take that away internally and have a look at it.
Ingrid has sent another question, which I'm going to read out for transparency, but we'll take that away and come back to you. Regarding the MFA, the minimum financial assistance criteria for phase 1, if you're exceeding the MFA funding, can you still participate in phase 1, but with no funding, or are you disqualified from participating? I'm going to park it at the moment. It may be down to number of proposals and quality of proposal that we receive, but we'll discuss internally and let you know if that's okay, Ingrid. We had not considered that.
Julia, if I can just add something quickly. In phase 1, we're not expecting any development, but you're purely selected to develop your use case and present at the showcase. Phase 2, when there's considerably larger amount of funding available, that's when any development work goes in. Just in case there's confusion, it might impact that question.
Yeah, so it may be that for some people, even £3,000 may cause them to go over the MFA threshold. So we completely recognise that. But in terms of whether or not you can still participate without receiving funding, if you're going over, we'll take that into consideration and let you know. But yes, Jonathan is right. The considerable amount of funding will come in phase 2. But I appreciate that different people are at different stages of their MFA journey, so to speak. Let me see if there's any more questions here. Are there different funding requirements depending on the size of the companies? For example, SMEs and large businesses, or is it the same for all sizes? Are you okay answering that one, Anna?
Of course. So I'm just reading it through. Sorry, my brain's a little bit messy today. Are there different
funding requirements dependent on the size of the companies?
So no, it's a short answer. So I don't know why that took my brain so long to really kick into gear. Do accept my apologies for that on a Tuesday afternoon. It will be £3,000 regardless of the size of your organisation for that first phase funding, and it will be the same for phase 2. So if you were to be successful, whether you're a micro business, an SME, a large business, or another organisation, it would be only 3,000 in that first phase and 70,000 up to, may I add, 70,000 in that second phase.
And I'm going to take the next one. Bob, you asked, are there any specific format for the proposal? So if you click on the link that has been shared on the chat, that will take you to the application guidance document. And on the same web page, you'll see a link to the application form itself. So the application form is online, available to everyone. You have the opportunity, and Anna, please interject if you want to add more. You can update, you can upload a document to provide any further information, any additional data or information that you may want us to have a look at, but there isn't any specific format for the additional information document itself. The main application form is an online form. I hope that is clear. If not, please let me know. Oh, thank you. Perfect. Brilliant. Anna, anything else to add on that one? Have I forgotten anything?
No, I think you've got everything. It's just an additional opportunity for you to provide a bit more detail and just to make sure. So we're keen for it to be in layman's terms so that people can read through and understand your proposal as succinctly and as comprehensively as possible. So we just thought it was an additional almost accessibility and further information provision requirement. So it's good, as I say, requirement, opportunity. It's not necessary / mandatory to upload that. It's just if you wanted to provide some further information, we're welcome to reading through it.
Perfect. And if I stay with you, Anna, it says, what project costs do we need to share as part of the proposal?
So we've uploaded a specific project finance table. It's on our application, and it runs through a few key subheadings. So that'll be, your consultancy costs, employee days, other costs and whatnot. We would ask, and I think I'll pass this one to you, Julia, are we keen to ask the applicants to provide the entire £3 and £70,000, or are we looking specifically just for that 3,000 at this stage? I think you'd be best placed to answer that one.
Yes, someone asked that question before. I think I answered in writing. So we're only looking for the £3,000 for now, and then for phase 2. We'll ask for a separate breakdown later on in the process, but it's just for the £3,000 for now that you need to complete the table that Anna is referring to. Yes. Right, there's another question. Can you give examples of the types of data sources you currently have available for pavement asset monitoring?
Yeah, pick that one up. So currently we do quite a lot of surveys on our pavements. So those surveys will cover a visual walk across, and that is done multiple times during the day. In terms of our site ops will drive a vehicle and look for anything that looks particularly that it shouldn't be there. We will also do a deep walk across with an entire management team twice a year, where they literally walk step by step to make sure that we're looking into every aspect of it. And then we also deploy our field pavement specialist who does significant number of analysis called PCI and PCNs, which look at both the strength but also the surface quality, and they take in both information relating and data relating to what's on the top, but also importantly what's below the surface. What we're looking for potentially in terms of other data is kind of other aspects that we currently don't do, or I'd like to link them through, such as environmental, water table, that kind of areas.
Brilliant. Thank you, John. George, I'm going to you. It's a challenge-related question from Sergey. Has security been specifically excluded from the challenges?
No, not specifically, and I think this would potentially be incorporated into the people movement challenge. However, the sort of the focus areas were on the sort of what we've sort of outlined in that challenge statement. But as you can imagine, security sort of encompasses that somewhat, but we've not sort of highlighted it specifically.
Thank you, George. So a couple of questions again around being outside of the UK. So as I'll reiterate again, in order to apply, you need to be registered as a UK business. And there was another question, can large companies apply? The competition is open to all companies that are UK registered and based. So anyone can put in an application. There is another one here around data and solutions. So from Ganesh, this competition only consider an MVP solution, which was already built and working. I'm hoping that MVP means something to someone.
Yeah, I can answer that. So we're looking here specifically for TRL 5 and plus. So we're looking for more than ideas. It's a solution that has been developed before and can be sort of transferred to the specific use case. So we would like to see in your application, and specifically our use case, examples of what you've done in the past and work that you've developed before.
And thank you, Jonathan. And Brian Fay sent a question: will a version of the digital twin be available to use to help draft solution concepts? Brian, if you're still online, if you can specify what you mean with a version of the digital twin, we can let you know whether it's a yes or a no. I'm not sure what you mean by version of the digital twin. We will be sharing the slides, and in there you can see reference to the digital twin roadmap as well.
Attempt to answer that. Again, it might be one of two or a few things, but as far as I know, we've not worked to develop a digital twin of Glasgow yet. That's what we're looking for from yourselves, and we're working at the airport to do that. After this, whether that demonstrator will be shared would be determined by the SME and the airport themselves, and whether you want to develop new products off of that. That's sort of out of our control right now.
And Brian has actually responded saying graphical representation. So Brian, if you refer to the graphical representation that was in the slide, the answer is definitely yes.
But also to say that we will be sharing the data catalog, which will have an understanding of whether there is CAD drawings, 3D drawings, BIM models, etc. Those sorts of assets that can be used to help you develop the virtual environment. If you need that, put that in your application, and we'll be able to get back to you of what's available.
We've got another question around whether drones will be allowed in the airport area for inspection purposes, i.e. airside.
To be confirmed, depending on what the rationale was for it. I think just to be clear, we don't have a no drone policy. It's about being able to fly safely in our airspace. So as long as we were to understand what the requirement would be, then we could look at it from a positive versus the risk of the operation. So it's not a yes or a no, but to see what the detailed requirement would be.
Perfect. There is a question around applications being assessed by AGS or CPC or both. The CPC team will do the main technical assessment. The competition, just to answer another question, is funded by Connected Places Catapult. So we will be doing the main assessing for phase 1. For phase 2, clearly we'll be looking at the colleagues from Glasgow Airport to also contribute, and we'll take into consideration their opinion for phase 2, for the selection of the phase 2 winner. Can you give examples of the types of data sources you currently have available for park? Oh no, I think we've answered that one. So the only last question we've got remaining is, oh, that's another one that was just popped in, right? Well, that's 2 questions remaining. Will asset tag register will be shared for phase 1?
Yeah, well, I think that to make what the requirement on the data would be to kind of a recurrent answer, but what we won't do is just give a full list of our asset register, because it also would be meaningless to just publish thousands of lines. But if whatever requirement is, make that clear in the data requirements, and we'll look at the response to them from that angle.
Brilliant, perfect. And one last question, should we be looking to leverage existing digital twin efforts for example, the baggage POC. And how may these work? Jonathan, maybe you might be best placed for this one.
Yeah, I'm making the assumption that that is baggage proof of concept done in Aberdeen previously. John, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it would be nice to showcase how your technology can integrate with other solutions, and how it can be interoperable with other platforms, technologies, etc. But we're not necessarily going to be providing you with previous efforts and telling you to build on top of that. This was very much we're looking for ideas on isolated solutions that can hopefully be linked and connected in the future.
Perfect. Thank you very much, everyone. I'd like to, oh, there's one more question. Oh, wait, okay. It just says thank you. Brilliant. You're very welcome, Bob. So given that there are no further questions that I can see anyway, just a reminder that the deadline to apply is at 5 o'clock on the 7th of March. Thank you, Kat, for sharing the QR code. So if you scan this one with your phone, it will take you directly to our opportunity page where you've got link directly to the application form, the application guidance. If you have any questions, our contact details are shared on the application guidance document, and I'll go straight to Anna for initial response. If you have any questions, as I said, we will be happy to respond, so feel free to let us know. We will create a frequently asked questions document just to log all the answers that have been provided today. And just one last word of thank you to all my colleagues from CPC and Rob and John from Glasgow Airport. And good luck with your application. Look forward to reading them soon. Bye, everyone.